Today is chapter 3, and the title of the chapter is Be Like-Minded About What Really Matters. And this is the law of agreement. Okay? So, each one has a law, so this is the law of agreement. So, we all know that we make decisions about relationships pretty quickly. You meet somebody and you say, okay, we have something in common. This seems like a nice person. And people will jump into any kind of friendship relationship, to varying levels pretty quickly. But if you do it too quickly and you jump in, with both feet too quickly, what we find, and most of us have had this happen, it could be a wonderful relationship and just, oh, this is terrific, or it could be a huge source of disappointment. Because one of the questions that's really important to ask before you start to really build a relationship with someone is, am I in agreement with this person? Well, what does that mean? Am I in agreement? It's a way to look below the surface and to look at the values, character, and foundational issues, the ones that you have, and how they may or may not match the person that you are considering as a friend or a deeper relationship with. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you can't have friends who have some differences. There's room for diversity in your life. There's room for people who have some varying opinions on certain matters. That's fine. But when you're talking about a relationship, you have to be able to be really open and honest about those differences. Diversity is good. To have somebody who feels a slightly different about something is good, because you can have a conversation and it's not always agreeing. You can talk things through. They might change your mind, you might change their mind, that kind of thing. But there's that foundational values that you need to be concerned about. If you disagree on core issues of what's important to you with someone, you'll find that you start to feel very uncomfortable with the relationship being that going any further into that intimacy. Okay, you'll feel uncomfortable because you'll feel like this just doesn't feel right. You'll feel like you need to make a change. Trust your gut on that one. The key word today is integrity. We're going to talk a lot about integrity. And integrity is going to cover those core values, okay? So we'll talk a lot about integrity, what it is, why it's so critical, and why it needs to be kind of an in sync, like synergy, like we talked about last week. Okay, what is integrity? Integrity is your own personal commitment to what is right, no matter what. What is right, okay? That something you refuse to compromise on, and it makes you you're a trustworthy person if you have integrity. You're the type of person, if you have integrity, you do the right thing when no one is watching. That's what we mean by integrity, okay? An absence of integrity will cause a relationship to ultimately really crack and become really unstable, because of course, if there's no integrity doing what's right, there's no trust. Very right. Simply. No integrity, no trust. There are 4 ingredients of integrity, and we're going to talk about each one. But before we get into those 4, I just want to say a couple things about them. The best way to observe if a person has integrity is to see that person in crisis, okay? If you've ever seen a person in crisis, you really get to see the core of what's important to them and how they handle their own life crises, okay? And how they go about problem solving. It kind of really puts a spotlight on their character because they're under pressure and stress, okay? And because of that stress and pressure, sometimes the circumstances may present that person with a temptation of some sort. And integrity says, if they have integrity, they are not going to be tempted. They'll always do what's right, right? So if you have a financial issue, you're not going to steal if you have integrity. That makes sense. Right. Just simply put. Okay. So I'm going to say the 4 qualities really quickly. I'm just going to read them off to you, but we're going to go through each of the 4 individually. But I want to say them all first, and then we'll go through them individually. So the 4 qualities are: 1, an unwavering commitment to truth, an absolute refusal to compromise on core values, 3, a complete dedication to pure motives, and 4, a passionate, consistent pursuit of excellence. Okay, so now we'll take each one individually. So the first one. So a person with has the first quality of integrity is the unwavering commitment to truth. And you know, we talked about this initially, that truth and trust is like a core foundation of any really good relationship, right? You can admire people and associate with people without having a deep relationship with them because they don't add value to your life, even though they are a part, like a coworker or whatever, because there's some things missing in that relationship. And part of that has to do with that trust and that truth. So I just, periodically you'll hear me reassure that you don't isolate yourself from people just because they don't have these qualities, because you would isolate yourself from the world, okay? So you can still admire and associate with people, but they may not be at the same level you are as far as the relationship is concerned. So there are 3 beneficial results from truth in a relationship. The first one is a relationship of trust. And that's the one thing we all talked about before. If you don't trust a person, you're not going to have a very solid relationship. The second one is trust based on truth makes intimacy possible. So you trust somebody enough to hear the truth and to say the truth, okay? And it's the kind of situation where sometimes the truth hurts, but some of your friends can really tell you the truth. You know, when you really need to hear it, some people can tell you the truth, and they know a way of doing it with compassion, and you trust that they have your best interests at heart, okay? Yeah. So it makes intimacy possible because of the trust. Trust and intimacy set both people free to confidently pursue everything God has created them to do and be. Because if you're in a very trusting, truthful relationship, you can have that support that we talked about last week. You can have that support, and that person who may see you veering off course, who can gently bring you back, because you have that intimacy, because you trust and you have truth in the relationship. Now, an example of and this one kind of cracked me up a little bit, of, you know, you can have a good friend who loves you and they can be way off base. And the example he gives is Jesus and Peter, where it's an example of courageously telling the truth. When Jesus says to the disciples, this is what's going to happen, okay? I'm, I'm going to be taken and I'm going to be crucified, and Peter's response to Jesus declaring these are the coming events was to say, oh, no, Lord, no, this can't happen. And Jesus' response was, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, and you do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men. So he loves Peter very much, but Peter is way off base. And so he could say honestly and truthfully, Peter, you're wrong. You're way off base. Get away from me. Right now, you need to be over here somewhere else. In all truth and honesty, I don't need to hear you because you're way off base. Now, did that ruin their relationship? No, because there was trust in that truth, okay? Peter knew that Jesus loved him. Peter knew that Jesus was saying the truth. He just didn't want to believe him. So that relationship wasn't ruined, but sometimes you have to be a little harsh with that truth, okay? There's a really strange dynamic that we fall into when it comes to telling people the truth, because we're always afraid that that either you're gonna hurt their feelings or they'll get angry at you. And we notice that Jesus didn't worry about that. He just said, hey, here it is. Now, most of the time, I think we're more compassionate when we do that, but we're really afraid of the fragility. How fragile is this relationship or this person? Is the situation making them fragile? Should I be careful? Are they going to hate me if I say the truth? How do I say it in a loving way? All of that. If you are in a strong, healthy, mature relationship, and you can be a strong, healthy, mature person and tell the truth with compassion, even if the trust is a little broken because you hurt them a little bit, it's going to be something that can be repaired. It can be rebuilt, because the trust is never really gone. It just, sometimes people hear the truth, they're a little bit hurt, but when they step back, they know that that was the truth and they needed to hear it from someone who cares. So we need to be able to say to each other, here's the truth and I care. Now, if you need to step back, it's okay. Go ahead and hate me for a minute. And honestly, one time in my career, I had to say to someone, you did these things wrong, and here's what's wrong with how you're doing your job. And I literally said to them, now you have permission to hate me for a while, but when you're done with that, come back and we'll talk about it. And he came back about a day later and he said, you took all the wind out of my sails. I was so hating you. And when you said that, I thought, ugh. And then he took time to think about what I said. And he said, you were right. And you weren't trying to hurt me. You were just trying to say, these were the things that were happening you need to fix. And he said, but you took all the wind out of my sails when you gave me permission to hate you. It's okay. It's okay. People with integrity are people who love and seek and cling to the truth. And of course, truth and trust kind of go hand in hand, okay? The second quality, I'm losing my mind here. The second quality of integrity is the absolute refusal to compromise on core values. Whatever people compromise, whenever people compromise their integrity to keep something, they ultimately lose it. Think about that. when people like really compromise their integrity because they want something so badly, they ultimately seem to lose it because it's short-term gratification. It's a solving of a short-term problem. Here's our examples. Let's look at our friends Adam and Eve. The short-term gratification of eating of the fruit gave them the ultimate loss. They chose to be disobedient, and it showed that they were willing to compromise their integrity, okay? Adam allowed his commitment to Eve to be more important than his commitment to doing what was right. I'm gonna, Eve says this is what we should do. Okay, I don't want to make her unhappy. Yeah, okay. And it's again, it's a willingness to compromise what he knew what was right. Let's look at another example, David. Okay, we saw David is a man after God's own heart, right? But yet, what does he do? He goes after another man's wife.
Right.
Okay, that's not someone full of integrity. So what happens? What happens? Ultimately, his life, his leadership suffered from that point on because he decided that, he wanted what he wanted. So what happened? He loses children. His daughter was raped. God, the Lord wouldn't allow him to build a temple. None of that. He lost all of that. So if there's a willingness to say, okay, I can compromise my integrity for this, ultimately, it may seem like a reasonable thing, but that short-term fix is ultimately going to lead to a loss. Okay? The next quality is a complete dedication to pure motives. Not simply doing right in terms of behavior, but wanting to do right. Hey, we all make mistakes. Let's just put it out there. We all make mistakes. But if your motive is to do right, then your integrity is intact. It comes from your internal motivation and not your external actions, okay, if you want to look at it that way. It's more of an internal as opposed to an external, because we all make mistakes. And and we all know people who are like this. This is not a person who wants to look good, but does not, it's not a person who wants to look good, but does not want to be good. Did I say that right? Okay. So it's all about like, it's the internal as opposed to the external. You'll meet people who want a relationship, and this was a great example for me. They want a relationship because to them, it's to their advantage. And this is if you jump into a relationship too quickly, you'll find this happens. And we've all seen it happen. I've seen people that I'm going to put it bluntly, they suck up. They suddenly suck up to you, and you're like, why are you sucking up to me?
Right.
And it's, they want a relationship because for some reason there's an advantage for them that they see. It makes them look smart, attractive, funny, desirable. It gives them a step up. They want to use your skills to their advantage because you happen to be good at woodworking and they need to build a shelf. They're going to suck up to you, that kind of thing. Their motivation is selfish. They're takers. And this is where we see that the integrity is not there and intact for that because there's not that pure motive. There's always that external thing happening that they want from you, okay? They would demand honesty and loyalty from you and insist that they love you, but they would treat you with indifference when you're not giving them what they want. Because you know, what they wanted from you. And this is where we have what breaks down is the relationship becomes no longer win-win from before. It becomes a win-lose, because you're like, well, I thought we were friends. Yeah. The example that they use he uses in the book is Judas. You know, it was all win-win with Judas until things didn't go the way he wanted them to, and he thought he had a great deal going on, you know. And his bad motives were influenced by external forces. He wanted Jesus to be certain things that, you know, and he didn't have that pure motive internally. So he was influenced by other things. The last one is the passionate, consistent pursuit of excellence. I love this one. I love that this book includes God and God's purpose in it. It really, because it helps me really get a hold of it. Because in this section, the author talked about to realize God's best for your life and his best in your relationships, then you must pursue lifelong excellence and surround yourself with people with the same high standards. You can't lose. If you stay around people and you surround yourself with your relationships with people who have that same high standard, you all motivate each other. You all, you know, it's that synergy happening again. Everything seems to move in the right way. And if somebody's tired or sick or whatever, it doesn't stop moving because the group moves it forward. What happens though is you have to stay away from mediocrity, because mediocrity is contagious and infectious. We don't need to do it perfectly. It doesn't need to be the best. Get a little lazy. What happens? The next person says, well, you didn't do your best, so I guess I won't do mine. And so again, that mediocrity becomes like an infectious disease. Mediocre people will disguise themselves with the right words, but ultimately you will see they begin to hinder what's happening as far as progress and excellence is concerned. The problem with excellence is that we all want it. Who doesn't want excellence in your life? But many times people will stop pursuing it because they feel like the cost of excellence is too great. For some reason, it's too much effort, too much something, taxing on your life. But you have to remember not to be discouraged and quit, because excellence demands continual passionate effort, and it takes time and energy. And that's why I said you have to, if you're in the synergistic relationship, then that time and energy, when I'm tired, Mother Trout will have the energy to pick me up and keep me going, that kind of thing. So that synergy is going to help you when you are tired. And excellence definitely adds value to your life and to other people's lives and your relationships. So, how do you recognize integrity? How do I say, ooh, this person has integrity? Well, one of the questions the author raised, and I thought, okay, this is legitimate, because we say we want certain things out of people we want in a relationship. He's asked these questions. Is it arrogant to require integrity from others? Shouldn't we accept them as they are and walk through life in relationships with them anyway? What do you think? Is it arrogant?
No.
No? No.
No.
Shouldn't we just accept them the way they are, even if they don't have integrity?
I think with a long-handled stick.
Yes. Yes. Watch your back.
Elder Cindy, yeah, you got to deal with a
What's
lot of
that?
people on, in your daily life to work with, family who are, I guess, quote unquote, snakes. But you got to treat them nice. You got to talk, but I'm not close to them, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And he's, yeah.
And I think that you would, so say I am just full of integrity, right? Well, I would need to really hold on to my integrity, right? Be uncompromising, but I could be an influence to that person that would hopefully help draw them into heaven. So
There you go. There you go. Very good point. So after he asked that question, he says, you know what? It's very simply put, all of you said this in some way. The requirements you have on any relationship reveals the kind of person you are. Okay. You have to require integrity or you will get involved with the wrong people. If you have integrity, you're going to want integrity, right? Who you are is who you're going to want around you. It's simply put. I mean, it's who you're going to draw in. It ensures that your relationship will not be a waste of time and that you won't be tripping over people or anything like that. I'm going to show you some questions, and again, I will send these later in the week, that you can ask about to get some insight into whether somebody has integrity or not. Hold on here. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's questions that reveal character, and I will send these so you don't have to try and copy them all down. And some of these you may be able to answer once you get to know somebody a little bit. Some may be a little bit harder. What is the purpose of this person's life? What's their purpose? Who is this person trying to please? What motivates and drives this person? Are his or her motives pure? What standards and values does this person hold? To whom is this person committed? Does this person tell the truth? Is he or she as honest about the little things in life as about the big things? Is this person fiercely unwilling to compromise his or her integrity? And does this person set personal high standards and ask others to set high standards as well? Okay, and I will send you these. But having seen those questions, what do you think of those questions? Anybody?
To me, they seem rather impossible to answer because I wouldn't know. In many ways, I can only base it off of your observations.
I think what he's trying to say is if whatever you can pick up on some of these questions would be helpful. To me, it would be really difficult. When you look at those questions, I would say I would have to know a person a long time.
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you have to get to know them to be able to answer those questions.
This is not oh, gee, I just got to know you thing. That comes with time. And you trust your gut for a lot of things, but I don't know, some of those to me were very difficult.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's those, what was I going to say? Oh, looking at those questions, it lets you know that any relationship you're going to have to, don't just jump into a relationship with people, even if, not just intimate relationships, but like friends, people you come in contact with, maybe, that you off and on over time, you'll be able to answer those questions. But I think these are also like clues that say maybe you shouldn't be jumping into relationships so fast with certain people until you can, like Mother Trout said, get to know them better.
Yeah, I mean, you think, well, we'll have people walk into the church and we assume that their motives are internally pure. But do we know? We don't know.
Right.
It may take us a while to get to know someone, to warm up to them, to hear some things, and take a while for us to build those relationships. But as we're building those relationships, we need to be purposeful in getting to know them and not just take for granted that, everyone who walks through the door is at the same level of or same space that you are in with God and with their journey. And I mean, all of that, you just don't know. God's going to bring people through the door. So how do we discern who these people are, and who could be another great friend or a great colleague or minister? We don't know. And sometimes a person has certain abilities, or they have a little charisma about how they are, and initially you think, wow, this is a terrific person, they're something else, but they seem to like lose their sparkle. If you have ever noticed that, people
Right.
lose their sparkle, and sometimes some people sooner than others, and it just and I think that's what some of these questions are helping you think about. Is there depth to this person? I guess I thought they were very, like Pastor said, very difficult questions. I thought they were very difficult. And
I
one
think
of
there are people who have trouble answering those questions for themselves, let alone about somebody else.
yeah, I was like, oh, hold on here. I have to turn on a light here. I can't see. It got dark on me. One of the questions in the book is talks about those questions, and it says, these questions would also be good for you to answer for yourself as you continue to develop greater character and integrity. So again, he offers it as it's something to consider for yourself as well. So okay, so that's the presentation for tonight. So we can go on with the conversation. I'm kind of enjoying this because it was kind of interesting to me, because people were nodding, and and comments were made about people were, Brother Terrell said some people are a snake, and you can tell that, and you want to keep your distance. Why would you say, here's a question, why is agreement on major issues important in your life, in your relationships? Anybody?
Well, if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody as a friend, I want to make sure they got the same values, the same commitment that I have. I mean, if they don't, why would I be friends with them?
Or they could have values. Yeah, I would have to stick with the values, but they may disagree with something that you have a strong opinion about. And sometimes in situations like that, you'd want to listen and try to understand. Because sometimes, in relationships, where you agree to disagree.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have that, but I think that it would have to be something where, could it be something where both of you have a good point, but
Well,
I don't know how that would go.
when you talk a little bit about about, and I'm going to throw this out here because I know it's one where people can take the gamut, because Pastor has used it as an example as well. Abortion, okay, the pro-choice and all of that. Okay, so people can have a variety of stances on that and still be friends and have opinions that may disagree, but be able to discuss why. Like, it could be life experiences, it could be anything. It could be, you know, they disagree with the law, they disagree with their, you know, and if you've ever had a conversation like that, there's so many levels of that that you can say, you know, you can run the almost a continuum of abortion is wrong, abortion is right, to, well, is it that black and white? No, it's not. It's you know, how does the woman's health come into play? And is it a medical necessity? Blah, blah, blah. So there's so many things that come into play, and you can disagree. You can agree to disagree. But if you are in a relationship with someone that you trust, and you can have that conversation, you're not going to be yelling and screaming and beating on your chest and, you know, you're going to have, you're going to have a conversation, and finally, you know, I don't know that you're going to change people's minds, but you're going to be able to agree to disagree, like you said.
Right.
So there's a topic right there, just taking one that is controversial, but but
And I think that was a very good example too. You know, something like that, you know, like if, you know, agreeing to disagree, at least, you know, when both of you explain where you're coming from with it, at least each side can understand why they believe that way, and you can both understand why you believe the way that you believe it. Just have an understanding of how you came to that belief.
But I think it takes trust to be able to talk.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Talk it out and say, here's what I believe. What do you believe?
Right.
You know, that's not a conversation you just have with anybody. I don't think, you know, until you know where they're coming from. And there are other, you know, there are conversations that, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever, if you hear somebody at work say something about a particular political whatever, and you just choose to keep your mouth shut.
Shut. Yeah.
Yep. Boop.
Yep.
Have you done that?
Yep.
Other Cindy, yeah, I had
For sure.
Go ahead.
I had a situation where, you know, my sister was celebrating a birthday, had a big birthday party at her house. She turned 40, and you know, a lot of family members got together and came over, and you know, some members of our gathering got to talking on, you know, the LGBT community, and you know, whether or not it's of God and whether it's not, I guess, and whether they agree with it or whether they don't. And one of the members of my family said, well, I don't have a problem with those type of people, but I just don't want them to hang around children because I don't want them influencing the children in a negative way. And they know who I am. You know, I don't like, you know, make it a point to wear my my gayism on my shoulder, you know. You know, but you know, they know they were throwing it out, but I just didn't say anything. I mean, so some people, you know, they say things that, you know, that are directed towards you, that are in conflict directly with who you are, and you know, and those types of people, You know, I will greet them. I will say hello, hi, how you doing? When they come over, you know, for family dinners or holiday, hello. But outside of that, if he calls me, I will talk for a little while. But other than that, I mean, I'm not trying to hang out with him or anything because it's just, I mean, that's just so ignorant to me.
But see,
It's a stereotype.
that's a core value you have, and he has that don't coincide. So you're not going to have any kind of close relationship with him, or it's going to become very dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point, that of looking at, you have these relationships that they're either family members or coworkers or somebody, and you choose how what kind of relationship you have with them based on what you can glean from their core values and if they match yours. Because there are just some people I can say, yeah, no, you don't think the way your core value for humans just in general is different. And sometimes it's that basic. How you feel about other human beings is just very weird to me, and I don't feel that way, and sometimes you just have to say, yeah, no.
I would want people to be very careful as to what they define as a core value, because I wouldn't want that to turn into, because I know people like this where basically if you disagree with me about anything,
Yeah,
you're not worthy to be in my space.
Right.
We're going to disagree about stuff, and your opinion don't make you right, but just that people know that there are certain things that are like non-negotiable. This is not, I can respect you as a person, but we're not going to really gel, as opposed to something like a political persuasion or something like that, where people literally, if you belong to a different party or belong to this and that, they want nothing to do with you. So I was like, we gotta be very careful about how we define those core values for ourselves. Of course, everybody's answers will be different for themselves, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I mean, when you think about core values, like what is non-negotiable for you? Look, to me, political party is irrelevant
Right.
because I have voted Republican, Democrat, because to me it's the candidates or the law or where I want the way I want something to be, doing my research. And so, but I see, and I think even more so on Facebook, sometimes people say, well, you're a liberal. Is that a bad thing? I don't understand. But I think labels are a problem. And that's why I think it's a lot of what is being said in this book is dig a little deeper. Like Elder Marcia said, take more time. Take more time and really look at yourself and the other person, and is this going to be a healthy relationship or not? Do I trust you? And knowing no one's perfect, but do I trust you? Do I trust you? So any other questions or comments? Are you enjoying this? Elder Marcia's taking over next week.
Elder Cindy, can you go over the 4 qualities of integrity again? I'm sorry.
Yes, the 4 qualities of integrity. Let me just real quickly grab here. An unwavering commitment to truth. An absolute refusal to compromise on core values. And as we discussed, those core values are different for everyone. A complete dedication to pure motives. Those are the internal motives as opposed to the external, what everyone sees. And a passionate, consistent pursuit of excellence.
Thank you.
Did everybody get that? Do you want me to include that in the handout that I send out?
Would you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. Yeah, I
Thank
can.
you.
Yeah. I'm just sending them out via email because I think that I know it's hard to take notes. So,
Real quick, Ellis, you had raised your hand earlier. Did you still have a question or comment that you wanted to make?
oh, I missed that.
Well, I think you all pretty much talked it out. I forgot what I was wanting to ask, but I think you all pretty much talked it out as everybody kept talking about, just what you can, I think the original question was, can you be in agreement with somebody who doesn't have integrity or something? Or I think values don't be, or not. Well, I don't know, but I think, I mean, for me, I was just saying some of the same things that you all were saying or thinking at the time. Some things are non-negotiable, like whether you're a friend or a partner or what, being anti-racist and being supportive of Black Lives Matter or All Lives Mattering or whatever. That's crucial to me. That's non-negotiable. Things like that. Being honest, being truthful, that's non-negotiable. I can't be in agreement with someone who's dishonest and a liar and a phony, and compromise with that, whether you're gonna be a friend or whatever. So, but of course I can compromise on things like preferences like, seafood versus Mexican. Okay, so that you can, you can compromise on, but this is pretty much I was in agreement with some of the same things you all were saying. Some things are just non-negotiable. I don't think, as far as values, I don't think you can compromise and have those people in your life. Because I believe they'll all come to a head later on.
Eventually it will, yeah.